Welcome to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. We're applying the mind of Christ to the matters of the day so that you can connect the eternal with the everyday and get ready to head out into the world that God so loves in ways that honor Jesus. So let's get started. This is The Reconnect.
Encouraging you to live as an ambassador of God's kingdom in the world.
This is The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge on Faith Radio.
If we're gonna fly, we fly like eagles, arms out wide. If we're gonna fear, we fear no evil. We will rise. By your power we will go. By your spirit we are bold. If we're gonna stand, we stand as giants. If we're gonna walk, we walk as lions.
Hello, my friend. It's hour 2 of The Reconnect. If, for whatever reason, you missed hour 1, you can go back and hear it as a podcast. It is available wherever you get your podcasts, but most easily found at myfaithradio.com, myfaithpodcast.com, carmenlaberge.com. We make it really easy. We try to make it really easy for you to, go back and listen or share the show with someone else. Joel checked in on the text line. Hey, good morning, Joel. Thank you so much. And Joel said, there's a compliment at the beginning of this, which seems a little self-serving for me to read, but I'm going to anyway. It says, Carmen, you're on fire today. The first hour of the show went by super fast. I totally agree, Joel. I thought it was crazy fast. Okay. Then he says, I can't thank you enough. I learned so much. I take notes while I listen to you, which I imagine is a bit of a task because I talk kind of fast. And then he says, by the way, I hope you're feeling better. I know you fell off a ladder last week. Yes. Thank you. I did fall off a ladder. I am healing. I appreciate your concern. If we were already, had a video component to our YouTube channel, which is coming, thank you to all of you who've so graciously given to Faith Radio. We are on track, for the video component of our YouTube channel to certainly be up by the end of this year. You'll probably get to see Bill Arnold first because his studio there, which is at the mothership, that one will be the first one to be flipped over and converted for video because, we're all audio. So our studios look like they should be audio. And there you go. So his is going to be first, and then Susie's will be second, and then mine will be third. And so then you'll get to see me, which was a little bit crazy because it's super early in the morning, and I'm not sure that this is anything anybody wants to look at, but there you go. That is the plan. But you would be able to see today that my face is healed. And so I'm very grateful to God that I'm healing up. In terms of continuing prayers, my lower right leg is still a mess. I don't mind telling you. It's a mess. It's bruised. It's scraped. It's still got a big dent in one section and a giant swollen section just above my ankle. So, continued prayers appreciated because it still hurts. But there you go. I'm on the mend. God is so good. The body is amazing. He is the great physician. All those things. Okay. Saturday, now to my notes. Dun, dun, dun. Because at the opening of the Reconnect, I do like to do a little headline news. And so we could talk about a lot of things, but I am going to talk about Saturday's Run for the Roses, also known as the Kentucky Derby. Took place at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. And let me just say, it's hard when you watch the video of what happened, which, the whole thing only lasts 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So it's not like a big time commitment here. Let me just say, as you watch this, it is going to be hard for you to resist immediately thinking to yourself, as Golden Tempo moves from last position to victory, it's going to be hard for you to resist the temptation to just declare, the last shall be first. But Renegade didn't finish last, so you can't also say the first shall be last. So it's like just taking part of what Jesus says, but still, I'm going with it. I am going with the declaration that Golden Tempo's victory in the Kentucky Derby on Saturday in this Run for the Roses is an opportunity for us to point to a parable or, Jesus's teaching, or use this as a modern day parable of a biblical teaching that the last shall be first. So for those of you that don't know, Golden Tempo, first of all, what a beautiful horse. Okay. I love horses. I just don't mind telling you that. So Golden Tempo, what a beautiful horse. Golden Tempo was a 23-1 long shot. But he charged from dead last to win the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. His trainer is the first woman trainer to ever win the Kentucky Derby and just the second woman to win any Triple Crown race. So that's significant. The jockey, Jose Ortiz, is obviously being celebrated as well. And the horse that was most favored to win, Renegade, well, didn't. He was bested by the 23-1 long shot Golden Tempo. And it just feels like Golden Tempo could serve as a modern day parable, right? For the truth that's spoken by Jesus in Matthew chapter 20, verse 16. So the last shall be first. But again, to be accurate and to be fair, Renegade, who was expected to be first, did not finish last. So like anything, don't take this analogy too far. Just take what's there and see what God might do with it, right? This is just an opportunity to take something and develop it in terms of a spiritual conversation today. Get God back into the conversation. So here's a thought. In the spiritual life, it often feels like we're trailing behind, even that the odds are against us, that we're struggling to keep up with the pace of the world, the demands, the speed, the mud in our eyes. You might feel like the underdog or the one who's overlooked or underestimated. But you're in the race, and that's something. I mean, think about how many horses Golden Tempo had to beat to even be in the run for the roses. And when he surged from the back of the pack to claim the winner's circle, like, it just is one of those times when you can say, you know, the pace of grace sometimes outpaces all the others. Sometimes the Holy Spirit does spur on the humble and the persistent to victory. What if today you just stopped jockeying for position in the middle of the pack where all the mud gets in your eyes anyway? And what if you took the risk of, well, taking the long road? Because that's the other part of this story that's so extraordinary. It's not like the route Golden Tempo took was to hug the rail, which is the shortest distance between the 2 points. No, this horse covers more distance than any other horse in the race because he takes the long way around. What if today you took a different course? What if today you ran at a different pace than the world is running? What if you went wide right and took the long road, but ultimately proving that you'd chosen the right course? I mean, your current position, even your starting position today, I just want to say this, that does not define your ultimate position. I want to invite you to align yourself with God, trust his timing, run at the pace of grace, respond to the nudging of the Holy Spirit, train today with the end in mind, and then when God says to go for it, to run, go all out. Run with perseverance the race that's marked out by the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. If you feel like you're at the back of the pack today, take heart. Your position is not your permanent state. Keep your stride, maintain your focus, trust that the one who began a good work in you is capable of bringing it to completion, and that in you, God exceeds every expectation. So today, I want to encourage you to expect the unexpected, anticipate miracles, and know that with God, all things are possible. Even the last could be first. Dr. Linda Mintle is going to join us next here on The Reconnect as we seek to apply the mind of Christ to all that's going on in our lives. And in light of Mother's Day, we're going to talk about 10 ways to handle the hurt, in particular of miscarriage and pregnancy loss. That's up next here on The Reconnect. Mother's Day is coming up very quickly. I mean, there's a lot going on between now and Mother's Day. I mean, today is May the 4th, so we could talk about May the Force be with you. Tomorrow, May the 5th, that'll be Cinco de Mayo. I'm not really sure what we're doing on May the 6th, but May the 7th is the National Day of Prayer. Also, Carmen and Jim's 15th anniversary, and then Mother's Day is coming up on Sunday. So there's a lot going on this week. Our friend Dr. Linda Mintle is here with us. You can listen to her on the Dr. Linda Mintle Show here on the Faith Radio Network. You can also find what she's writing and thinking about over at drlindamintle.com. Linda, welcome back.
Good to talk to you. And May 6th is my daughter's birthday. So there you go. You can fill that in with something else.
Thank you so much. It's good. We needed to fill that day in with something.
That's right.
So
We couldn't leave
good.
it empty. That's right. And
No, that's so
I
good.
loved your talk about the race, the Kentucky Derby, because I was so enthralled. Now, I didn't honestly, and I'm kind of sad to say, as a Christian, I didn't think of the first shall be last, the last shall be first. But I was thinking of the resiliency of never giving up. I heard the disc jockey talk about he worked at this for like 11 years and he just kept putting his head down and working hard and believing it was one day, what something good would happen. And so I was so encouraged with the resiliency and just hoped that was a message to the American people about be resilient in all you do. Don't give up. And then, of course, we don't give up because of the hope in Christ. So we have that spiritual realm that is so important to our overcoming and staying in the race and doing the kinds of things. And it's actually applicable to what we're going to talk about today, Carmen, because we're gonna focus more, it sounds like, on miscarriage. But I also want to say, as someone who dealt with infertility for 7 years, I mean, with a miscarriage in the middle of that, that resiliency was only possible month after month after month because of Christ in me. And so that factor of having the Holy Spirit, who truly is an overcomer, I know we sing about that in a lot of songs, that we're overcomers in Christ. But it truly is the case when you apply this to so many things in life, where you are running a race and you have to stay in it and you have to persevere and you have to hold on to faith. So it's a little bit tied together here for our topic today.
Well, I appreciate just how vulnerable and forthcoming you are in this particular post. And again, we're talking to Dr. Linda Mintle, and I'm more than happy to send you this link on the text line. It is about pregnancy loss. It is about miscarriage. It is about infertility. And it is a wonderful list of ways to approach and handle these very real concerns for so many, not just women, but so many couples, so many families. This is a generational hurt and conversation. And so I want to send you this on the text line, 877-933-2484. You start off just talking about the infertility that you guys experienced, and it was unexplained. And then you did conceive and became pregnant, and then you miscarried. And you talk about that really bringing you to a crisis of faith.
Yeah, it was really hard. And let me just say to all the want to be moms that are listening to us and are experiencing either infertility or they've had miscarriages. I had one. I know many women who had multiple miscarriages, and you're really part of a large club, and that's not a club we all want to join, but it is a club of about 20% of the population. So when I looked this up, it was like 1 million women in the United States every year experience a miscarriage. Now, at the moment you experience it, that is not comforting, but it is helpful to know that this is not an experience that you're having that other women haven't had as well, and can help you through that journey. And that certainly was the case in my point. But as we approach Mother's Day, I'm so glad we're talking about this, because it's one of the reasons I wrote the piece, is because this is the hardest day for women who have had trouble conceiving for whatever reason, and then have maybe lost a baby, because your churches are so focused on this, and rightfully so.
Weird.
I mean, I'm a mom.
Weird.
Yeah,
No. It's okay to say that churches are weird on Mother's Day.
Is it okay? Okay. Well,
it is weird.
It's hard for the moms who are in there, single women who may not even be in a marriage yet. The moms who have infertility, and then the moms who have had pregnancy loss. When there's a focus on that in such a dramatic way, I dreaded Mother's Day at church.
Oh,
I have to tell you.
I still do. I'm a stepmom, and let me just tell you, it's weird. I mean, I was single, right, until my early 40s, and so it was weird. And then it is just, it's weird. I don't mind telling you. It's just the way churches deal with Mother's Day is just weird.
Well, I think in part, I mean, I'm a mom and you are a mom too. And so it's like, I think we're trying to celebrate the role of mothers in the lives of children. And that's really, really good. I think, though, the sensitivity of the pastors. So I actually went and spoke to my pastor and said, you've got this many women, 20% of your congregation with miscarriage and 10 to 13% with infertility. That's a pretty good size of people in that pew, in sitting in those pews that are really struggling today. And what our pastor was willing to do, and I thought it was great, was he was willing to acknowledge that and actually prayed for women and acknowledged the hurt and the difficulty of the day. Because there was one year I remember in my 7-year history of this where I just had to leave. I just got up and I just looked at my husband and I said, I can't. It might have been where I, just found out that it was another month that I wasn't going to conceive, but it was just so difficult. So I just want everybody around. Yes, I want to celebrate moms on Mother's Day, but also if you're in a church and there's a service, I want you to be sensitive to other women and talk to them and experience, I now pray for people, and I know people that have lost babies, and I'll walk over and I'll pray for them during the service or when they talk about this, because I think we need to be sensitive to the loss and the grief and the pain that a lot of people are experiencing.
Well, and there's two other groups of women that I just want to acknowledge as well, and those are women who have abortion in their history, and they are in our sanctuaries as well, and that pregnancy loss is real. And
Carmen, let me say something about that, because
Please.
It's been really difficult for me as a therapist when we live in a culture that celebrates abortion, and it was always a dynamic where I would go, I don't understand this, because women come in for therapy and talk to me because of the grief and loss of a miscarriage, but those conversations are not that different with abortion. And years later, I will say this to any group, years later with abortion, we're still dealing with a lot of the fallout of when that happens. Now, I understand. I want to be compassionate to people who felt that was their only choice, who didn't have good information, didn't understand the role of adoption and fostering, all these other things. So I'm not trying to be judgmental. What I'm trying to say is that there's pain associated with that the culture does not recognize. It's not a simple procedure. You go in and your life goes on. It really impacts women, and they need the healing as well. So I'm glad you brought that up.
All right, when we come back, we're going to work our way through some of these 10 ways to navigate the grief related to miscarriage and pregnancy loss. But I'll send you the whole list on the text line, 877-933-2484. We're talking with Dr. Linda Mintle, and this is The Reconnect. Hey, I really like it that you listen whenever you want, wherever you are, at all times of the day and night. That is so cool. So thank you so very much for all the ways in which you support this ministry with your prayers and words of encouragement. Right now, in order for this podcast to be available everywhere all the time for everyone, I actually need your help. Could you support this podcast right now so that more people in more places at every hour of every day could hear about Jesus and grow in their relationship with him? Click the link in the show notes or give now at myfaithradio.com. And thank you so much again for listening to this podcast. As Mother's Day approaches, I just recognize that there's a lot of women who wanted to have children, and that season of life has passed without God giving you marriage or children. I recognize that there are others, and this is the subject we're dealing with today, which is miscarriage and pregnancy loss. There are others, for whom the loss came through abortion. There's just a lot going on as we approach Mother's Day. And so I'm just so grateful that Dr. Linda Mintle is here with us. The piece is posted, and we're happy to send you the direct link to it. 10 ways to handle the hurt of miscarriage and pregnancy loss. We'll do that on the text line, 877-933-2484. Linda, let's just highlight a few of these 10 ways.
Well, we got to start with acknowledging the feelings. And I'm gonna say this very clearly to church members. The worst thing you can do is go up to somebody who is experiencing pregnancy loss and give them cliches and platitudes. A lot of people did that with me. It was very well-meaning. I understand that, but it was not helpful. So instead, what we want to do is simply acknowledge the loss and the grief that is associated with that. And it's okay to feel that pain and that grief, because if you suppress it, you're going to have problems down the road. So that is really important, and just embracing the pain. Now it's a long race, like you were saying at the beginning of the segment, and we have to understand that we're going to feel real pain and grief for a while, and there'll be multiple times during years to come where maybe the anniversary of that child's potential birth, and different things will trigger those memories, but you will eventually heal and move forward. And doesn't mean you're going to lose the memory, but the grief that is associated will certainly lessen over time. But it was interesting when I was preparing for this morning, I started thinking about, will I meet this child in heaven that I lost? You start having these thoughts even years and years and years later, so that pain is real. And so you have to allow yourself to really grieve, and don't be surprised if another layer of this hits you a year later, or even years later, something else comes up and it triggers a feeling. Just work through that grief fully. And that's a lot of those first points that we want to say. And, one of the other points is really important, is don't do this alone. It's really helpful to find support, to find other women who've gone through this process. I thought that was really helpful. And honestly, I was so surprised when I said I had a miscarriage. I was in the choir at the time, and they had been praying for us for, my husband and I are both in the choir, and they'd been praying for us they ended up praying for us for 7 years. And when I announced that I had the miscarriage, I mean, people were so sensitive and so helpful. And I was so glad. And then women came out of the woodwork and told me too, me too, me too. And one of my really good friends told me I had 5 miscarriages. I didn't even know that about her. So I think getting the support and finding other women and men, and again, don't ignore the men, because the men have lost a child too. And so getting support and having conversations about this, and not feeling isolated about all of that, is really, really important. And then I think another point that I wrote about, Carmen, is to continue to be hopeful, but with flexibility. So surprisingly, in the middle of my 7 years, I ended up adopting. And it wasn't something I had really thought about. And I didn't do it. I want to be really clear. I didn't do it because of not being able to have a child. It's just that God opened up a path that was surprising to me. And it was a joyous path. And it was something that, to this day, I'm just so grateful, that I don't think I would have looked at had I not been infertile. So I'm so grateful for other ways that we can have babies. I'm working with a woman right now who's fostering a 9-month-old because of drug addiction in the bio parents, and she's just said, this baby brings me joy every day. And so sometimes the path to getting to where we want to be with parenting is very different, and it's all in God's plan and all in God's timing. I mean, I could tell you the stories of both of my children. They're miraculous in terms of God's path and timing. So again, it's really getting down to trusting in God, having the timing of God. He knows what's best. We get so impatient. And let me tell you, I learned patience in 7 years, how to wait for something. And I prayed every day, God, if this isn't something you have for me, take the desire from my heart. And it never went away. And it happened in, one was a birth, and one was my own birth, bio birth, with a miraculous set of circumstances, and then the adoption. So just be hopeful in the Lord. He knows your heart. He knows what you want. He knows your faith. He understands grief. He was a man of sorrows, according to Isaiah. He bore our grief. And there are many, many people in the Bible, David, Elijah, Jeremiah, that experienced tremendous grief and cried out to the Lord. And the scripture promises that God is a help in the time of distress and trouble, and he hears our distress. And I had so many mornings where I called out in tears, crying to God in distress, but he was faithful. It makes me cry right now because of how faithful God was to me during that time. It was long. It was difficult. And as a couple, this is important, we turned toward God, not away from God. And that was the key to us getting through this as a couple as well. So I don't know how you do this without Jesus, but with God, there's always hope and there's always healing.
Linda, thank you. Thank you for um, approaching this topic, doing it personally. Um, thank you for all of the ways that you address it professionally as well. But thank you for today, just doing it as a sister in Christ and a friend, and acknowledging that Mother's Day's coming, and not all of us experience that day in the same way. And so maybe today is a way of raising the awareness of a pastor or some church leaders who might be listening, some people who've only ever thought about Mother's Day in one way because for them it all came in the right time and easily and without any loss ever. And for many of us, that's just not true. For some, those children came into our lives in very different ways, but they're still celebrating Mother's Day somewhere else. And so just lots of sensitivity there. I appreciate your highlighting and pointing out that, there's a dad involved in all of this as well. I know my husband acknowledges that one of the things he's looking forward to most about getting to heaven is meeting the children he didn't get to meet here. Mm-hmm. And so it's real. It's real for men as well. So thank you. Thank you for all of that. And thanks for being with us as always on the Reconnect.
All right. My pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to send you the link to this on the text line, 877-933-2484. Obviously, we didn't get through all of the 10 ways to navigate the grief and the hurt of miscarriage and pregnancy loss, but I'd love to send you that link, 877-933-2484. It is the month of May. Would you just think about that for a moment? What might you do in May? What are all of the May things that you may do? There's an endless number of things you may do. But what will you do? What are you actually going to do? The days of putting off until tomorrow what you may do today, well, those are over. John Acuff is going to join us next, and we're going to talk about procrastination proof, practical wisdom, and a plan to never get stuck again. I'm a procrastinator, so I am definitely looking forward to this conversation. You're listening to The Reconnect. John Acuff is joining us. You may know him as a wildly popular New York Times bestselling author, or maybe as the person who stands up there on stage and really just encourages you to move forward in your passion and in your work. He's here today with a brand new book, Procrastination Proof, Never Get Stuck Again. John, welcome to The Reconnect.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and confess I'm a procrastinator. So this is wonderful encouragement. And there's a number of things here that for folks maybe who are familiar with your writing, you're going to be like, that sounds like John Acuff. And then there's people who are completely unfamiliar with this. So maybe let's just start with, what's the cost of waiting? Like, why not procrastinate?
Well, I mean, the cost of waiting is your life. What procrastination costs is time, and what else is life made of but time? So it's a very expensive thing to invest in accidentally.
One of the things that I remember you saying is that procrastination is a form of like stealing from your future self. Can you talk a little bit about that, like the biblical perspective there?
Yeah, so every decision you make today sends a blessing or a curse into your future. So, if I decide to put off writing the book God's called me to write, or put off starting the business, or taking the trip, or helping the neighbor, anything that I've put off, I have less time to do it and less time to, harvest that field. And so I just think sometimes we get this disconnection from the me of the future and the me today as if they're not the same person. And then we put stuff off that we realize, oh, I wish I'd started sooner. That's what everyone who reads this book is going to think. Oh, I wish I'd started sooner. I didn't know it was this easy.
Oh, well, tell us, because I think that's the part, right? That right there, when you say it's easy, don't we tend to put it off because we think it's going to be really hard?
Well, we often make it hard. I mean, think about New Year's resolutions. People say they're going to do something for a year they've never done for a day. That's a really hard decision to go, I don't run, but I'm going to run for a year. That's like marrying somebody you just met at speed dating. So I think that often we fail at these things because we make them so hard, or we go, walking with a friend doesn't count as exercise. So I have to do CrossFit 72 times a week. And you go, well, you could just start with 10 minutes a day of reading your Bible or 10 minutes a day of writing. And so I like to have really easy on ramps so that you build a little bit of momentum and you can audition the goal and then decide, oh, yeah, I do like this. I want to double down and do a second week or a third week.
Okay, because you guys know as you're listening that the author of a book and learning the sound of their voice, then you get to sort of get a sense of what's in there and what this journey is going to be like. So now you've heard Jon Acuff, you've heard how he talks, that's also how he writes. So if you want us to send you the link to Procrastination Proof, Never Get Stuck Again, we're happy to do that on the text line, 877-933-2484. Talk about the permission pivot.
Yeah, so we think that the solution is willpower or discipline or sacrifice, but it turns out the real thing you need is permission. The permission to be the person you know God's created you to be, the permission to do the things you know you really feel called to do. And when we were kids, that word permission had a lot of power. A permission slip was a passport. It allowed you to join the soccer team and go on a field trip. But as adults, we've kind of lost touch with that word. And I think that's what we see. If you look in the Bible, it's God giving people permission constantly to go, hey, Paul, I know you think you're on this road. You're actually on a different one. Hey, Peter, you think you're just a fisher of fish. You're actually a fisher of men. I'll show you. You have Gideon. You're in a hole hiding. You're actually a mighty warrior. You have permission to lead, the defense of your people. And so the word permission has a lot of power, and you've got to learn how to give it to yourself constantly, but also give it to the people around you.
I want to settle there for just a moment, Jon, because I think that, at least in my life, many people who, I see a greatness there. I see talents. I see capabilities. I see so much, and they do not see that. There's somehow along the way, like somebody took away their permission slip, or they don't believe that God could do that for them. Can you talk about maybe the ways that you have experienced how people have gotten to the place where they just don't see themselves in that way?
Well, it's certainly understandable. I wrote a book called Soundtracks about these kind of repetitive thoughts we believe and how to change them. And sometimes you're right. We grew up with some broken soundtracks. So, Carmen, I'll have executives in their mid 40s, early 50s that I'm trying to help step into leadership. And they're pulling back, or worse, they're self-sabotaging. And what you find if you pull the thread long enough is that when they were 14, 15, 16, somebody in a position of authority, a teacher, a coach, or God forbid, a parent said, you're not a natural leader. And they believed that in the moment, and then they listened to that broken soundtrack for 30 or 40 years. And so now it's gone from a fear into a belief into a law. It's codified in their heart. And so part of what I like to do is hold up a mirror and go, no, this is who you really are. Or, a good friend will say, no, you're capable of this. And that's part of why we need community. I honestly think 100% self-awareness is impossible. Like, I heard somebody say it this way: it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. And so we need other people in our lives to say, oh, no, this is who you really are. Every great marriage, there's a spouse going, I wish my husband could see himself as I see him, or I wish my wife knew what she was really capable of. And that's a big part of the reason we do need community.
That is so good. I love that. And I appreciate that about you, and the way you're transparent about the role of your wife in terms of being not only a great asset, but a great cheerleader and a person of influence in your life. I certainly experienced that in my marriage as well. We're talking with Jon Acuff. He is not only the author of Procrastination Proof, as he has just shared with you. He's also, Soundtracks is one of his other, I think, 11 books. He has a bunch of books. And so we're going to connect you with jonacuff.com when we send you the link to the book we're talking about today, which is Procrastination Proof, Never Get Stuck Again. Happy to send you those links on the text line, 877-933-2484. I don't know if I'm in the 4% or the 96%. When you talk about feeling like we are or are not living up to our full potential, what has your research found on that sort of potential gap?
Yeah, so I had a study done with a PhD named Mike Peasley, and we asked 3,000 people if they're living up to their full potential. And as you just said, 96% of them said no. The bigger stat was that 50% of people said 50% of themselves is untapped. So half of us are walking around with half lived lives. And I think we have to be very clear that one of the reasons this happens is the procrastination industrial complex is really, really good at distracting you. Meaning procrastination is the most well-funded fear in history. Hulu doesn't fund inner critic, Netflix doesn't fund perfectionism, but all of those services fund procrastination. The CEO of Netflix in 2017 at the LA Summit said their number one competitor is sleep. They're worried you're going to go to sleep. They're worried you're going to write your book. They're worried you're going to connect with your spouse. They're worried you're going to get in shape. So they're competing very well for your time and attention. And so that's part of it. You've got this gift that you don't know how to open, and that feels complicated. And then you have a really, really talented, equipped, well-funded machine trying to get you not to do the thing, whatever the thing is. And so that's where I love to stack the odds in our favor and go, here's a book that will help that.
All right. This is the book that will help that. It is called Procrastination Proof, Never Get Stuck Again. We're going to continue our conversation with the author, Jon Acuff, here in just a moment. Don't you want to be like living remarkably? Like, don't you want your actions to finally match your intentions? I know I do. So when we come back, we're going to talk about willpower, mindset over willpower. And I don't know if we've got time, but we'll try to get to the 4 permissions. That's up next here on the Reconnect.
Psst, have you heard the news? Listening just got better with the new and improved Faith Radio app. No more restrictions, no more static, no more missing your favorite shows. Now, listen when you want, where you want, and share with everyone. When you need hope, encouragement, Jesus, it's right there on your phone. Text the word app to 877-933-2484 and follow the link or search Faith Radio Network in your app store.
All right, I would just like to say that you're getting like $50,000 worth of engagement with Jon Acuff right now. And so you ought to be paying attention. You ought to be sitting up and taking note, and you certainly ought to be asking for the link to the book. So we've got Jon Acuff on the line right now. You can find him at Jon Acuff.com, like the cuff of your shirt. So jonacuff.com. Procrastination Proof is the book. Never Get Stuck Again. We'd love to send you both of those links on the text line, 877-933-2484. First of all, Jon, again, thank you so much for being here with us today on the Reconnect. Let's talk a little bit about willpower. What do I do on a 0 willpower day?
Yeah, well, one, expect to have them. Don't have feelings about that 0 willpower day. Don't go, I must have failed. Other people never have these moments. I expect them to come. So there's a million little things you can do. One of my favorite things to do, Carmen, that every listener could do so easily is I collect what I call a motivation portfolio, meaning I write down things that motivate me. Lots and lots of things, not just one thing, because on some days that one thing won't move me. So what I do is I write down 10 things, 15 things, my kids, a certain worship song, a certain Bible verse, a friend that I can call and encourage. And so then on the days when I wake up and the tank is empty, I don't just try to force myself into doing it. I look at my portfolio and go, okay, which of these 2 things do I need to do right away? Oh, is a walk around the neighborhood for 5 minutes and a little bit of endorphins, is that going to do it? Is that song going to do it? Is this soundtrack that I have written up on my wall going to do it? So motivation and willpower are muscles you practice. They're not things that just show up and you hope they'll always be there.
It's so good. I recently, because I adopted this practice from you, this having a list, this motivation list, and I recently added Ben Sass to my motivation list.
Oh my gosh, right?
It's
like nuclear.
I just find his public testimony so motivating.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, truly. All right, the myth of someday. Lots of days in the week, lots of days. What's the myth of someday?
The myth of someday is when people go, well, someday I really need to learn AI. Someday I'm going to do a better job of reaching out to my kids. Someday I'm going to deal with that thing. And the myth is that there's this someday week that's going to show up where you start on Monday and go, oh my gosh, it's the someday week. My calendar is empty. I don't have any commitments. All those things I've put off are, now I have the time. And there is no someday. And so one of the soundtracks I use to help me with that is I'll say, the person who has to do it later is also me. The person who has to do it later is also me, meaning, okay, can I do a little bit today? Because there's no someday when I'll feel like doing this. There's no someday when I'll have the right amount of time to do this. And so I think someday is a great kind of word to look for in your vocabulary and go, wait a second. I'm using someday. I need to pause.
All right, so you just gave us a little bit of insight into both your motivation list, but also your soundtrack. My guess is when you used the term soundtrack earlier, not everybody thought about what you're talking about. They thought about,
Sure.
like making a list of songs. That's not what you're talking about. You're going back to those tapes that play in our heads.
Yeah. So God talks about our thought life more than we talk about it. And so when he says, renew your mind, take every thought captive, think on what's noble and true and beautiful, my framework for that is a soundtrack, meaning the thought that's playing in your head. And mindset is really simple, Carmen. We often let the world kind of make it woo-woo and fuzzy, but here's how mindset works. Great thoughts turn into great actions turn into great results. And all too often we overfocus on the results we want, but we never change the underlying thoughts that are shaping everything. So we don't get the actions and then we don't end up with the results. So if you want to deal with your mindset, it's very simple. You retire your broken soundtracks. You label and identify and retire the things that are holding you back. Number two, you replace them with new soundtracks. We know biblically it's not enough to clean the house. If you don't fill it, worse stuff shows up. And number three, you repeat those new soundtracks so often they become as automatic as the old ones. And I mean, come on, can't you tell I'm the son of a Southern Baptist pastor with that alliteration? Retire, replace, repeat. That's how you deal with soundtracks. And that's what I mean when I use that phrase.
Well, and that leads to a renewal of the mind, right? And that's a huge part of what you're talking about here. What would be one thing, you've got a couple of minutes, so you don't have to rush through this. What would be the one thing that you want the person out there who they know the thing that they're uniquely gifted to do, called to do, like they know the thing and they just, for whatever reason, feel stuck and they just got to get off of stop and go. What do you say to them?
Yeah, so I would say let's do it in a small, kind way. Meaning, when a friend says to me, "Hey, I'm stuck," I don't say, "Let's change your whole life tomorrow." What I often say is, "Can we find 15 minutes a day for the next 7 days in a row, and just see how it goes?" And usually they'll say back to me, "Well, I'm very busy." And then what I'll say is, "Well, show me your screen time, and then let's take 15 minutes back from your sneakiest, greediest, hungriest app." And usually there's 15 minutes in Instagram we can take back. Usually there's 15 minutes in Facebook we can take back. So I would just say, like, what would a 7-day experiment look like? If you said, okay, for the next 7 days, I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day doing this thing, not the whole thing, not all of it, but just 15 minutes. And again, I love to do that approach because it allows you to kind of build up some momentum. It allows you to kind of test some things to realize, oh, I can do this. This isn't as hard as I thought it'd be. I love the other side of that. People always say, what was I so afraid of? What was I so, worried about? I've written 11 books, and writing books isn't easy for me. I've just learned how to do it in a small, easy way. And so that's what I try to do with people is when it comes to life change, how could we do it in a way where it's actually sustainable? 92% of all New Year's resolutions fails statistically, 92%. And I like to find ways around that situation.
If you're saying to yourself, I want to write a book, John Acuff teaches people how to do that as well. So you should check out not just this procrastination conversation, but you should check out everything he's written. I mean, he's going to help you finish what you start, and he's going to help you start what you want to get started. So this is Procrastination Proof. It's his newest and latest book. I couldn't recommend it to you more highly. I just encourage you to also consider the way John invited you. If you're that person, like, right, you know you're stuck, you know the thing that you want to do, you're compelled to do, you desire to do, you're just not doing it. I want you to recognize how he framed the invitation. Can we find 15 minutes a day for the next 7 days in a row to change this one thing, to do this one thing differently, to do the thing you want to do instead of all these things that are just eating up your time? I don't want you to miss the we in there, because this is accountability. It's done in community. And so I want you to tell somebody, I want you to talk to somebody about the thing that you want to stop procrastinating about, that you want to actually do. Procrastination Proof is the book. Might be a wonderful companion for you on this journey that you might never get stuck again. We'll send you the link on the text line, 877-933-2484. John, thank you so much for being with us today on the Reconnect.
I had a blast. It was fast and fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
Oh, well, we will take you up on that because we love to follow up. We love to reconnect. It's kind of our jam. So thank you. I know that time is valuable. And so thank you for literally spending some of your very valuable time with us today. We appreciate it.
I was honored.
Yeah, that's Jon Acuff. We'd love to connect you with him and his most recent book, Procrastination Proof. But while you're over there at jonacuff.com, you can connect with his other writings as well. Maybe there's something that you're like, that's really where I am at this moment, and that would really be the thing, because he's got a number of books, and I would commend each and every one of them to you. So start with the one that makes the most sense to you. If you're like me and you're a procrastinator, you actually do know the next thing that you're supposed to be doing. Like I do. I have files of the next thing I'm supposed to be doing. So Procrastination Proof is just a tool I'm going to use. I'm going to employ it. We're going to see if I can get off of stuck and moving into the thing that I know that God has called and created and gifted me to do. And starting today, there you go. I'll start with you today. We've got 1 minute left. For those of you that thought the first hour of the Reconnect went fast today, I don't even know where the second hour hardly went. And so if you want the opportunity to listen to it again or share it with a friend, just remember, in addition to being a live radio broadcast, it's also a podcast. You can get it wherever you subscribe to your podcast. We obviously make it available to you at myfaithradio.com, myfaithpodcast.com, carmenlaberge.com. It is not hard to find. And so we would love for you to share it with somebody else. Maybe you know someone for whom that conversation with Dr. Linda Mintle would just be exactly the right thing in the lead up to Mother's Day. Or maybe you know somebody who's stuck somewhere on something, and you know that this conversation with Jon Acuff would really bless them. It would be the lever that God might use in your relationship with that person to get them, a little unstuck. Maybe you guys could read the book together. Just a thought. Okay, as I said to John, time is valuable. I know it is the most precious, non-renewable resource that God gives us. And so I also know the value of spending it together. So thank you so much for spending your very valuable time with me today. As you head out there into the world that God so loves, I just want to remind you who you are. You are an ambassador of the King and the kingdom. You are an agent of grace. You're a minister of God's reconciling love. You're a peacemaker. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Thanks for listening to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. Let us know how we can help you more fully reconnect the eternal with the everyday. We want to walk with you throughout your journey of discipleship. So let's connect. You can text us at 877-933-2484 or connect with us online at myfaithradio.com and on all our social media. I look forward to connecting with you as we each seek to reconnect the eternal with the everyday.
What if the deepest wounds in your story could lead you closer to God?
I just had this strong sense that this was the beginning of a new life for our family, a new creation story.
What if the fear that holds you back is the very thing Jesus wants to heal?
Where did you learn that fear? Because you did not learn it from God.
My name is Susie Larson, and on my podcast, Susie Larson Live, every weekday we open the mic for honest conversations about faith, faith, healing, health, and identity in Christ.
With your DNA, you are a victim. With my DNA, you are more than a conqueror.
Whether it's trauma, temptation, or the lie that says you'll never be free.
I'm prone to go to slavery, to go back to laws, but what we really want is freedom.
We talk about grief and grit, mental health and miracles, healing and holy expectancy, because you were made for more, not just to survive, but to live deeply, love bravely, and walk boldly with Jesus. Susie Larson Live. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Susie Larson Live.